a person is interested in applying EB-5. Okay, so they come to you.
Okay.
What is the timeline here?
Well, first there's preliminary timeline in which there's time enough to decide what regional center is suitable for the person. After the person decides that he wants a particular regional center, then comes the application to the immigration department. There are several applications. The first application takes 7 to 9 months for the initial approval. If the person is in Indonesia, for example, he still has to be interviewed by the American consul in Indonesia, and that usually takes another 6 months. So the timeline from beginning to the end is about a year and a half.
Before they can come here?
Before they can come here, about a year and a half, because it's about 7 to 9 months for the preliminary approval, and then about another 6 months before they can be interviewed in Indonesia. The preliminary approval comes from the United States, inside the United States. Then the person who's in Indonesia, for example, waits to be interviewed in Indonesia.
When can they start investing in this regional center?
At the beginning, before they apply to the immigration department. Part of the process for the application, the person must show that he had $500,000 or $1 million beforehand, for a period of time beforehand. So, for example, you cannot say that, well, I'll borrow $50,000 from 20 friends, they'll put it in my bank account, and then I'll show that I have $500,000 or $1 million. You have to show that the money was in your possession for at least a year beforehand, that it wasn't put in. And the money can be in the form of property, of a stock, of savings account, of checking account, or property, and appraised value of the property. But you have to put up the property, you have to take a loan out on the property to put up the $500,000 or $1 million. So you do have to show that you actually had that money to invest at the beginning, for a period of 1 year. So
basically you would, let's say you invest next month, 1.5 years is the process, and then after 1.5 years they will get a green card if everything is approved?
Well, okay, first comes the initial process. If you put up the $500,000 and you're denied by the immigration department, the regional centers will refund all of your $500,000. There's usually about a $30,000 or $40,000 administrative fee, which they won't refund, but if it's denied, they will refund the $500,000. The denial rate at the first stage is very, very low. Almost all are accepted. The difficult part comes after 2 years. If the regional center is still in operation, has it gone bankrupt? Is it still in business? Is it still succeeding? So that's the difficult part. The success rate, even for that, is fairly good, but there's no guarantee. Obviously, nobody can give you a guarantee, least of all the lawyer. The person has to investigate his or her own chances, do his or her own risk analysis, and decide if this is for her. But it is a definite way to get a green card.
And at 2 years, okay, when you apply for the real green card, what type of question or what type of screening is?
There's another application that the person fills out to show that where he or she has invested the money, and then the project has to provide all the documentation, financial documentation to the government, to the immigration department, their tax records for the past 2 years, their profit and loss statement for the past 2 years. An accountant will usually do this.
Okay.
And if the government is satisfied that the business is still in operation, then the person will get his or her permanent green card. If the company is no longer in existence or is bankrupt, then the government will not approve, and the person will not get a permanent green card.
Unless they reinvest or put another investment.
No, they'd have to start all over again with another company. They've lost all that time.
Okay. Let's say this person is still earning money. They own companies in Indonesia. They like to immigrate to the U.S., but at the same time, they don't know whether they're going to stay here for, continuously for, let's say, 2 years. Is there any alternative?
Well, the conditions are the same for everybody. If you get a conditional green card and you don't know if you'll be staying here, you can apply for what's called a re-entry permit, which allows you to be outside the United States for up to a 2-year period. You have to show documentation that your home is really the U.S., so you should open up a bank account here. And of course, you already have a $500,000 or $1 million investment in the U.S., so that's indication that you intend to remain here. But this gives you a period of time to close up your affairs in your other country, in your home country, and come to the United States.
So by the time when they apply for the green card, not the temporary one, but the permanent green card, by that time then they have to decide.
Yeah, there are several families, or many families, are not interested in a green card themselves, but for their children. So they make the child, the young person, the investor, the $500,000 investor. The child or the student may want to stay here, may want to live in the United States. The parents may want to continue to live in Indonesia. But part of the process is determining who shall be the lead investor. It could be the husband, the wife, or the child.
That's it. You've done a lot of EB5 in your office. What is the main reason that they chose to pick EB5 and why the U.S.?
Well, first of all, they have the money. Obviously, because you can't do it unless you have a sufficient amount of money. Next question is why the U.S.? There are other alternatives, Australia, Canada, Europe. I can't tell the reasons, but for whatever reasons, many people prefer to come to the United States because of its dynamic nature, because of its freedom, because of its because of its economy, and they choose the U.S. rather than England or Canada or Australia.
Okay.
That's a personal reason. I can't explain why.
I see. And after they get the permanent green card, how long would it take for them to get the U.S. citizenship?
Another 2 years. Once they're here for 5 years, starting from the time they've received the conditional or temporary green card, a 5-year period must have passed, and they can apply for U.S. citizenship at that time.
When you say 5 years, we are talking about...
It's actually 5 years minus 90 days, so you can apply for citizenship within the 3-month period of the 5th anniversary of getting your temporary green card.
So if they took a re-entry permit, then for 2 years, then it's actually, it has to be 5 years physically here in the U.S.
It has to be more than 50% of the time physically in the United States.
More than 50, okay.
And you cannot be outside the United States for more than 6 months at any one single trip. So if you stayed in Indonesia for the first 2 years, your 5 years would begin after you came back from Indonesia, after 2 years.
I see.
So the two conditions to meet are more than 50% time in the U.S. of the previous 5 years, and the second condition is no single trip outside the U.S. for more than 6 months.
Okay. Do you have any advice for people who are going to apply for EB5, perhaps tips and traps?
Well, first, the person has to decide, do I want a green card in the United States? They have to make that decision. They may not want to. They may be doing very well financially where they are. So they have to decide, do I want to live in the United States as a green card holder, or do I just want to come and travel frequently to the United States? If you're a fairly wealthy businessman and you have $1 million, it's not likely that you'll be refused a visa anyway, so you will be able to come here and visit. So the decision should first be made, is this what I want? Do I want to have a green card? Do I want my family, my children to have green cards? So that's the basic decision. There are alternatives, other employment alternatives, which is a little complicated to go into now. H-1 visas, or coming here as a student, but those only indirectly lead to green cards. This application for EB5 is directly leads to a green card.
Is EB5 going to be here for a long time?
Well, it's been always extended every 3 years. The extension period is due this coming September, but I see no indication that it will not be extended. It's very popular with Congress. Congress wants more money invested in the United States, so Congress will either make it permanent or will extend it for another 3 years or so. So I don't see any difficulty in the immediate future.
Okay. Allan, I appreciate for the time today. You want to say something a little bit Indonesian language?
Terima kasih banyak. Maaf saya lupa hampir semua bahasa Indonesia. Saya belajar bahasa Indonesia 30 tahun yang lalu. Sekarang saya masih bisa bicara secara sederhana saja. But thank you for your question, John.
And bagaimana kita bisa contact Allan?
Telepon nomor saya di San Francisco 415 391 4949 telepon saya. Alamat saya 1 Sutter Street, SUTTER, Suite 700 di San Francisco.
Okay. And paling baik hubungin lewat telepon atau lewat email?
Telepon atau email sama saja. email saya is Allan ALLAN detik Samson SIMSON at SBC global GLOBAL.net.
Oke, terima kasih.
My pleasure, John. Thank you.